What a week it's been, the political fallout from the election leading to the breakup and now the possible makeup of the coalition. Ted O'Brien is the Deputy Leader of the Liberal Party and he joins me now. Ted, I really appreciate your time. I know you've got a lot on your plate. You've come from this party room meeting. I'm not sure if it's still going on. You'll tell me. It started at 5 o'clock. What do we know?
Oh, Peter, well, thank you very much for having me on. It has been a difficult time, but I think as a coalition, we're in a better place tonight than we were last night, and that's a good place to start. We did just have a party room meeting of the Liberal Party, which Susan Lee led, and that was really just an opportunity for Susan to bring all colleagues up to speed with the status of negotiations with the National Party, and also to allow them an opportunity to provide some feedback. So it was really just an update and an exchange of views from colleagues. And I think more broadly, we are in a better place today than we were yesterday. And I believe that everybody's excited about that because we are coalitionists. The Liberal Party needs the National Party. The National Party needs the Liberal Party. And the more we can recognise that we are a complementary, non-competitive coalition of two parties, the better that we can do our job, which is really to fight for Australia's future.
Yeah, and of course, you know, if you want good government, you've got to have a strong opposition, and you are not a strong opposition if you are not united in a coalition. So I think there's a lot of head nodding going on around the country listening to you give us that update right now. We heard from the Prime Minister today. He's not bringing the Parliament back until the 22nd of July. You've got 8 weeks now to sort this out. Have you got any sort of sense of the timing now on this negotiation?
Well, I think everybody is interested in ensuring that it's done right and there aren't any unnecessary delays. The sooner we have the coalition agreement locked in, and we can stand people up in certain portfolios from both the Liberal Party and the National Party, the better, because then we can get on with the job at hand, which first and foremost is to hold the Albanese government to account, and secondly is to start developing policies together. So the sooner the better, Peter, but I can't be clear with a specific timeline. I know that certainly Susan Lee isn't wasting any time, which is why there was a very quick briefing for us all this afternoon following her and David Littleproud's productive discussions today.
Are you going to be part of these negotiations?
Well, certainly I've been working very closely with Susan as well as Michaelia and Anne as part of the leadership group of the Liberal Party, but these negotiations are very much between just Susan and David as our leaders, as is the usual way. What
I found, I guess, a real departure, and I'm not the only one, I've spoken to a lot of former ministers, former prime ministers and others, including current MPs too. It's always been the Liberal way, it's a 40-year precedent, that everything stays on the table in terms of policy until such time as it is changed, and you get back, you adjust to opposition, you still run a parallel review process, but everything is there so you can deal with what's before you in the Parliament, etc. And I agree with Susan, if there were radical captain's calls made by Peter Dutton that didn't have buy-in from the party room, we'll revisit those. But this idea that you can throw everything up in the air for the next 6 months and not have a policy on this and a policy on that when you've got to front the Parliament pretty soon, it's just not workable. Is that going to now be returned the way it was, or is she still going to persist with this idea that there is no policy until it is restated?
Peter, I haven't heard the 6-month time horizon before, so I don't think there's any sort of time horizon on that. And again, Susan's view is the sooner that we can lock in a coalition agreement and get going with the National Party on policy, in addition to holding the government to account, the better. Certainly her view has been, and I think she's been right with this, is that none of the policies are being thrown out. None of the policies that we brought to the last election are being thrown out, but none of them are being locked in definitively either. And so we have to face the reality that unfortunately, we got smashed in the election before last, and then we got smashed again in the election just gone by. And it brings me no joy to say that we are pretty much at the lowest ebb as a party since we formed and went to the people as a united force. If you look at the proportion of seats held by the Liberal Party. So we've got a lot of work to do, and that means that we have to ensure that we're engaging with the Australian public, and we are saying to them, we want to hear your views about our policies. And so that's the approach that Susan's taken. I think it's the right one. But it's not one that we want to see sort of dragged on forever at all, but it's a very genuine attempt to say to the Australian public, we know you sent us a message on the 3rd of May. We've got to get to the bottom of that, and we want to do that in a very open fashion. And the sooner we can do that as a united force with the Nats, the better.
Yeah, I'm going to push the point, though. It is a departure from what you have done for the last 40 years. That's the issue, I think, Ted, that people have picked up on. It's not that you don't review your policies. Every coalition opposition does and must, but you have to have something there as a residual framework as you go about the work of, as you have, doing the media, fronting the chamber, dealing with legislation. That's probably where I think this thing went off the rails as quickly as it did.
Well, Pete, I suppose I'd say that the extent to which there are any differences from how it's done in the past is we're in very different circumstances now. And I say that with an enormous dose of humility. We have been sent a pretty powerful message over the last 2 elections from the Australian public, and that puts us in a position where we have to ensure that we are rock solid with our values. No one's messing with that. What we believe in, who we fight for, all of that has to be the building block. But when it comes to policy, we're not throwing anything out in a rush, but nor are we just locking everything else in a rush. That's our approach, and I do believe it is the right approach, different or otherwise from the past.
Just quickly, you are a personal proponent, I know, for nuclear. You and I have had some really thoughtful discussions. I've been incredibly impressed about the intellectual grunt behind your analysis work. Do you want to, I'm not asking you to preempt, but do you want nuclear in some form to stay on the table?
Peter, thanks for giving me a little bit of an out there because, of course, we're yet to have all those discussions as a party room. But I can say that my view on nuclear energy, moreover, has not changed. It has not changed, and international evidence remains the same. And so there's been no change in my view there. But I also have to be pretty honest and say that the Labor Party weaponised this $600 billion lie against nuclear effectively. And so the policy needs to be reviewed, but my personal views on nuclear energy have not changed one iota.
Well, all credit to you, Ted, for not dodging that question. I think that is the sort of honest appraisal that your supporters want to hear as you go through the difficulty of the next few months and indeed years. Thank you for your time.